Success never felt like a burden until I met Alex. Back in college, we were inseparable. Or at least I thought we were. We studied together, partied together, and even shared the same career ambitions. At first, I admired him. He had this natural charisma, the kind that made professors remember his name and girls lean in a little closer when he spoke. But what he lacked was substance. He wasn't the guy who burned the midnight oil, grinding through coursework or brainstorming innovative ideas. No, that was me. The problem? He had a knack for taking my ideas and making them sound like his own. I still remember the first time it happened. We had this major business project, a case study on emerging startups, and I spent weeks analyzing trends, building financial models, and structuring an airtight strategy. The night before our presentation, Alex offered to refine my wording, said he'd polish it up a bit. The next day, he presented my entire strategy as if it had been his brainchild all along. I let it slide. Maybe it was an oversight. Maybe he got carried away. But it kept happening. Time and time again, I watched my hard work propel him forward. He rode on my coattails without even breaking a sweat. Professors praised him. Recruiters noticed him. And all the while, I was the one doing the heavy lifting. By the time graduation rolled around, I was exhausted, not just physically, but mentally. I had built my success with my own two hands, yet I had to share it with someone who never truly earned it. So, I made a decision. I was done with Alex. No more shared projects, no more collaborations, no more friendship. I was stepping into my own future, and I was doing it alone. Life after college was everything I hoped for. I landed a job at one of the top consulting firms in the country, an offer that most of my peers would have killed for. The work was intense, but I thrived under pressure. Contracts, negotiations, high-stakes deals, I was in my element. Within 5 years, I climbed higher than I ever expected. I had my own team, a corner office, and a reputation as a guy who got things done. And then I met Emily. It happened on a random Tuesday afternoon at a gas station. I was running late, frustrated, and barely paying attention when, bam! A scalding wave of coffee hit my chest. Oh my God, I am so sorry! I looked up, ready to snap at whoever had just burned the hell out of me, but then I saw her. Dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail, hazel eyes filled with something between amusement and mild horror. She held up her empty coffee cup like it was evidence from a crime scene. I kinda lost my grip there. She sounded embarrassed, but the smirk on her lips told a different story. Before I could even react, she reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Tell you what, if you're not too pissed, give me your number. I owe you coffee, somewhere that doesn't involve third-degree burns. I stared at her. Was this really happening? I had heard of women accidentally bumping into guys they found attractive, but this was a whole new level of confidence. Before I knew it, I gave her my number. That night, she texted me. The night after that, we had coffee. A week later, we had our first kiss. A month later, we were inseparable. Emily was different from anyone I had ever met. She was sharp, witty, and fiercely independent. She worked in IT, a rising star in her field, and I loved how her mind worked. Logical, strategic, always 5 steps ahead. She actually cared about my work, asked about my contracts, even offered her own insights. I had never been with someone who truly understood my world, let alone wanted to be a part of it. Our love story was fast and intense. 6 months in, we were engaged. A small wedding. Just family, close friends, and a future that looked unstoppable. For a while, life was perfect, and then everything changed. It started with the baby, or rather, the loss of the baby. Emily had a miscarriage at 4 months. One moment, we were decorating a nursery, picking out names, dreaming about the future. The next, we were sitting in a sterile doctor's office, listening to words that didn't feel real. I tried to be strong. I told her we'd get through this, that it wasn't the end, just a setback. But something broke in her that day. She stopped talking as much. She buried herself in work. Some nights, she wouldn't even come to bed, just sat in front of her laptop, staring at God knows what. I told myself it was grief, that she needed time, but deep down, something felt off. The warmth between us started to fade, and then the failures started. One deal fell through, then another, then another. I had never lost before. Not like this. It felt like the universe was stacking the deck against me, watching me struggle just to see how much I could take. My bosses, once full of praise, started to question my abilities. And then he showed up, Alex, waltzing into my company like he owned the place. I hadn't seen him in years, and yet within weeks he was fixing everything I had been struggling with. The deals I had lost, he recovered them. The bosses who had doubted me, they loved him. It was happening all over again. I was losing everything, and I had no idea why. A losing streak is a funny thing. At first, you think it's bad luck. A couple of deals fall through, some miscommunications, maybe even a competitor swooping in at the last second. It's frustrating, sure, but you tell yourself you'll bounce back. Then, it keeps happening. The first deal I lost was a big one, a contract with a high-profile client we had been courting for months. Everything had been going smoothly, right? Up until the final meeting. Then out of nowhere, they pulled out. No explanation, no negotiation, just gone. The second deal unraveled in a matter of hours. A last-minute amendment I had never even seen had been submitted to legal, and it completely tanked the terms. Someone had made a critical error, and of course that someone was pinned on me. The third deal? That was the one that made my bosses start to look at me differently. I sat in the boardroom as they questioned my competence, their expressions shifting from concern to disappointment. I was the guy who never lost, the one who always delivered. But now, I was fumbling, and no one could figure out why. And then Alex walked in. You've got to be kidding me. I was sitting in my office, sifting through contracts that had gone up in flames, when I heard his voice for the first time in years. I turned to see Alex standing next to our department head, shaking hands like they were long-lost best friends. He looked exactly the same. Too confident, too smooth, too damn smug. He'll be joining us as a senior consultant, my boss said, clapping him on the back like he was some kind of savior. Alex met my gaze, grinned, and said, "Looks like we'll be working together again." Something in my stomach twisted. Not again. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, but within weeks, Alex was everywhere. The deals I had lost, he revived them. The clients who had turned me down, he brought them back to the table. And the bosses, they were eating out of his hand. He's a natural, a problem solver, just what we needed. I watched, powerless, as he fixed everything I had been struggling with, almost like he had inside information, almost like he knew exactly what to do before anyone else did. And then, the real déjà vu hit. I caught him using my ideas, tweaked just enough to sound different. But the core concepts? Mine. But this time, it wasn't just an annoying college project. This was my career, my livelihood, my reputation. And he was destroying it. Things at home weren't any better. Emily had been distant ever since the miscarriage. At first, I thought it was grief, but as time went on, it started to feel like something else entirely. She worked late, much later than usual. She barely spoke to me when she got home. She would sit on her laptop typing away, eyes scanning the screen like she was in another world. One night I came up behind her, resting my hands on her shoulders. "Hey," I said softly, "you okay?" She flinched, actually flinched, like my touch was something foreign. "Yeah," she said quickly, closing her laptop. "Just tired." I wasn't an idiot, I knew something was off. But what? Was it still the baby? The stress? Or was it something else? Something she wasn't telling me. I started paying attention. She was glued to her phone more than usual. When I walked into a room, she would lock the screen so fast it felt unnatural. I told myself I was overthinking things. that she just needed time. But then, the whisper in the back of my mind started to grow louder. What if my work problems and my marriage problems weren't separate? What if they were connected? I started watching. At work, I took note of how Alex operated. The way he always seemed to be one step ahead. How he knew exactly what I had been working on, even when I hadn't discussed it with anyone. At home, I watched Emily. The late nights, the secrecy, the coldness. One day, I was leaving the office late when I saw her name pop up on Alex's phone. He was sitting in the break room, his phone on the table, and when it buzzed, I saw it clear as day. Emily. Call me later. My heart nearly stopped. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Not without proof. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. The night everything changed, I wasn't even looking for them. I was walking home, my mind clouded with exhaustion, when I passed by a small cafe with an outdoor terrace, and that's when I saw them sitting together, leaning in close, Emily and Alex, talking like they hadn't just met, like they had history, like they belonged together. And then, it all clicked. I don't believe in coincidences. Not anymore. As I stood there just outside the cafe, watching my wife and my enemy deep in conversation, the air felt like it had been sucked out of my lungs. Emily's posture was relaxed, familiar. She leaned forward slightly, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup, her expression unreadable. Alex, on the other hand, had that same smug look I remembered from college, the one he wore when he thought he had everything under control. I needed to hear what they were saying. I moved closer, slipping into an empty seat at a table just behind them. The low hum of conversation filled the space, but their voices stood out, and then I heard it. He's catching on. Emily's voice was sharp, but not panicked. Alex chuckled. Of course he is. But does it matter? He's already lost. Lost? I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. Emily exhaled. He's not stupid, Alex. You know that. He's suspicious, and if he finds out everything... Alex cut her off. He won't. He's too busy drowning in his own failures to see. What's right in front of him? Failures. Failures they orchestrated. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Emily stirred her coffee absent-mindedly. I just didn't think it would take this long. Alex leaned back. Hey, you're the one who wanted to play the long game. The long game? My mind was racing, but I forced myself to stay still. Emily scoffed. Yeah, well, let's just say it wasn't as easy as I thought. Do you know how exhausting it was pretending to be in love with him? Making him think he was in control? I went cold. Every muscle in my body tensed, but I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. It had all been a lie from the moment she accidentally spilled coffee on me at the gas station. From the whirlwind romance, the late-night talks, the whispered promises, from the wedding, the dreams of a future together, the baby. None of it had been real. She had been placed in my life, inserted like a Trojan horse, and I had welcomed her in with open arms. Alex smirked. Well, you pulled it off. The guy was head over heels for you. Guess he wasn't as smart as he thought. Emily rolled her eyes. Please. It wasn't exactly hard. He's predictable. He thinks everything is about hard work, about being the best. Meanwhile, he never even noticed what was happening right under his nose. My hands clenched into fists under the table. Alex leaned forward, lowering his voice. So, what's the next step? You're still feeding me the latest, right? Emily sighed. Yeah, he's been too paranoid to talk about anything important lately, but I still have access to his laptop. If he's working on something big, I'll find it. I closed my eyes for a second. They had used me. Alex hadn't just stolen my success. He had engineered my downfall. And Emily, the woman I had loved, trusted, built a life with, was part of it. I had been blind, but not anymore. Could have stormed over right then and there. I could have grabbed Alex by the collar, demanded answers, made a scene. But no, that's what they expected. That's what they were counting on. If they thought I was drowning, I was going to let them believe it. For now. That night, I played my part. When I got home, Emily was already there, sitting on the couch with her laptop. She looked up and smiled, that same perfect smile that had fooled me for years. "Hey," she said casually, "you're home late." I forced a tired sigh, rubbing my face. "Yeah, just work stuff." Her expression didn't change. "Anything I can help with?" I almost laughed. Help? Sure. She could help by telling me exactly how long she had been screwing me over, but instead I just shook my head. "Nah, I think I just need sleep." She nodded, turning back to her laptop. I walked to the bedroom, shutting the door behind me, and then I got to work. I wasn't going to let them win. They thought they had me. They thought I was defeated. They thought they had pulled off the perfect betrayal. But they forgot one thing. I don't go down without a fight. I never considered myself a vengeful person. I believed in hard work, strategy, and playing fair, qualities that had gotten me to the top before Alex and Emily ripped it all away. But now, I was done playing fair. Emily was predictable. She had always been confident, too confident, especially when it came to keeping secrets. She thought she was smarter than me, always 5 steps ahead. That's why she never bothered to cover her tracks. I waited until she left for work one morning. Then I went straight to her home office, sat at her desk, and powered on her laptop. She had a password, of course, but I knew Emily better than she thought. 3 tries, her late dog's name, her favorite author, and finally, the date she accidentally spilled coffee on me. Access granted. I dug through her emails first. Nothing. Then, her private folders. Bingo. There it was. Years of correspondence with Alex. Hidden away, but not well enough. Emails detailing how they had set me up. How she fed him my business strategies, insider information, personal weaknesses, a timeline of their plan to destroy me. I copied everything onto a flash drive. This wasn't just proof. This was my bulletproof vest. A week later, our company was set to secure the biggest deal of the year, one that would determine the future of our firm. The entire executive team was flying in for a presentation, and Alex? He was in charge of it, or at least he thought he was. I knew exactly where he kept his flash drive, the one containing all the pitch materials, financial models, and strategy reports. He was obsessive about it, always checking his bag, making sure it was safe. What he didn't check? His laptop. The night before the presentation, I slipped into his office. The security guard barely glanced at me. I was a senior executive after all. I found his laptop, switched his flash drive with mine, one loaded with absolute nonsense, spreadsheets full of errors, slides that made no sense, a complete train wreck. Then I left and waited for the fireworks. The next morning, the conference room was packed. Executives from all over the country, investors, shareholders. Alex stood at the front, confident as ever, his smug grin in place. "I'll be presenting our expansion strategy," he said smoothly, plugging in his flash drive. "This will demonstrate why we are the best in the industry." The screen lit up, and then chaos, graphs that made no sense, projections that were wildly inaccurate, entire slides missing. Confusion spread through the room, murmurs, whispers. The CEO's face twisted in anger. "Alex, what the hell is this?" Alex stammered. This isn't my presentation." He fumbled with his laptop, frantically clicking through files, but I had made sure there was nothing to find. A top executive turned to me. "Do you know what's going on?" I shrugged, playing my part perfectly. "I have no idea, but I have my own version of the strategy if you'd like me to present instead." The CEO gave a curt nod. "Do it." I took Alex's place at the front of the room, plugged in my own flash drive, the real one, and delivered the pitch he had stolen from me. I walked through every point, every financial model, every strategy, all the things I had worked on for months, all the things Alex had been feeding off of like a parasite. By the time I finished, the room was silent. Then, the CEO spoke. "You were supposed to lead this deal, Alex. Instead, you embarrassed this company." Alex was sweating. I don't know what happened." The CEO cut him off. "Get out!" Just like that, Alex was done. I got home that night, poured myself a drink, and waited. Emily walked in an hour later, dropping her bag by the door. "Hey," she said, heading straight for the kitchen. "Long day?" I set my glass down and pulled a thick envelope from my jacket. "Yeah," I said. "We should talk." She turned, her brow furrowing. "About what?" I tossed the envelope onto the table. Our divorce. For the first time, she lost control. Her face twisted in shock. "What? What the hell are you talking about?" I leaned forward. "I know everything, Emily. You and Alex, the setup, the emails, the fact that you never loved me." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She tried to recover, shaking her head. Where is this coming from? You're being paranoid." I laughed. "You think I didn't check your laptop? You think I didn't hear you and Alex at the cafe?" The color drained from her face. I stood up, towering over her. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign those papers. You're going to pack your things, and you're going to get the hell out of my life." For a moment, she just stared at me. Then, something snapped. Her mask slipped, and the real Emily, the one I had never seen before, came out. "You think you're so much better than me?" she spat. "You're nothing, you hear me? Nothing. You were easy to manipulate. You were weak. You still are." I smirked. "Right. That's why I destroyed both you and Alex in a single day." Her hands balled into fists. Then her lips curled into a cruel sneer. "You want to know something?" she hissed. "The baby, it was never yours. It was Alex's." For a second, the world went silent. Then I exhaled. "Well then," I said, "that makes this even easier." I grabbed her suitcase, the one I had already packed for her, and threw it out the door. "Get out, Emily." She stood there, shaking with rage. Then she turned on her heel and walked out. I shut the door behind her, and just like that, I was free.